evening, everyone. We are recording this session tonight for posting on Leeds and Grenville municipal websites if there's any interest in the future. So just so that you know, I believe it only records this way. And so you're all safe sitting back there. But I wanted to make sure that you knew that it was being recorded. We will encourage questions as we go along. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. And just for the sake of the recording, we will try and repeat your question for the audience, the intended audience, and then we'll answer it too. So just checking because where we are.
To be on.
Yep. So I'll just do the introduction, or are you going to do the introduction? We play back and forth a lot, so.
We never know which one's going to do what, to tell you the truth. It's always a surprise. What we'll be covering is up on the screen right now. Who we are, important dates that as candidates you will need to know, what a qualified elector is and what the voters list is, the roles of head of council and members of council, the duties of council, documents that as a prospective member of council and member of council you must be aware of. And we do close it off with council staff relations. This is one of the most important parts of what we're presenting tonight.
So I'll kick it off with who we are. My name's Sandy MacDonald. I am the city manager for the city of Brockville. I have been with the city of Brockville for well over 30 years. I started as a financial analyst, then went on to be the deputy clerk and the clerk, and spent the last 5 years as city manager. So I've gone through the ranks, if you will, and I've had experience from the operations department. And then with the clerk's department, you get a very broad spectrum of things that you deal with. I have done 7, now I can't remember my number and I didn't write it down. 7 elections during my time as clerk, as well as something that's very important and we'll speak about a little bit later is I've been involved with the Clerks Association because there really isn't a clerk school, but the Clerks Association is the Association of Municipal Managers, Clerks and Treasurers of Ontario. It's one of the largest associations. It has 2,200 members, and I've been involved with them since starting to work in the clerk's department 20 plus years ago. With the association, I felt it's given me a lot of education and experience, but I like to give back to that. So I've spent some time with the association. I worked as an executive director on our local area zone. I worked on the board of directors as an executive. I was vice president, president, and past president. And I've also been a marker for the AMCT, or the Association of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers. I have worked under 6 mayors, which is great because you really get a different perspective because every mayor works a little bit differently. So that's been very nice. And I think that's it for me. So I'll turn it over to Yvonne.
Welcome. I'm glad you're here with us tonight. I have 42 years plus of municipal experience, 42 full-time years. I retired 3 years ago, and I continue to do contract work with municipalities when they need me, and if it sounds like fun, to tell you the truth. I have been involved in 13 municipal elections, and because I come from the rural end, I've only had 7 mayors during my career. I have completed extensive educational programs to make sure that my career went the way I wanted it to. I'm a Carleton U grad from political science with a minor in business, of course, political science. I have taken every course the AMCTO has provided to clerks and treasurers, everything that I could possibly cram into my brain, I have on that. And I served as a committee member for many years on the Professional Development Committee, and ditto with Sandy. Sandy and I follow each other. I was the vice president and president of the association and had the privilege of going across Canada and seeing other associations and speaking with other municipal employees and we all have the same issues. We all have the same pressures, which is really nice to see. I've been to the States representing the association, and I've also been to Japan. Unfortunately, when Sandy was the president, it was COVID year, and she was not able to go to Japan, which is sad. I have a deep and abiding love of municipal government, and I think it's just gotten worse since I've retired because I'm reading everything I can, and I'm driving Sandy nuts with the questions that I have.
So you'll see through our presentation, we both have a very long history in municipal government. We both are here because we feel for the right reasons. We're here to serve the public, and we're kind of geeky. So just take that with a grain of salt.
And to start the geekiness.
Yep.
One of the basic foundations of municipal government is understanding where we sit in the food chain. So the federal government and the provincial government, they are levels of government that have constitutional standing under, I believe it's section 91 and 92. They were given the powers that they currently have, rightly or wrongly, or if it's balanced, what was relevant 100 years ago may not be relevant today. Municipalities did not get that constitutional standing. Becoming municipalities and having municipalities was a very hard fought battle for specifically the British Empire loyalists. But what they did say, what the Constitution does say, is that the provincial government can establish municipal governments if it feels it's necessary. So, of course, across Canada, municipal governments have been established. And most provinces have exactly what we have, what's called the Municipal Act. The old Municipal Act stated, this is what you can do. And if it's not in that Municipal Act, you cannot do it. And then a number of years ago, that all changed around. The province said, okay, you guys are kind of growing up. We'll give you a little bit of ability to manage yourselves. As Sandy has said, and I steal it from you, things like the free trade agreement affected municipalities just as much as it did other levels of government. And this gave us the ability to react rather than having to wait for permission from the province. So municipalities, whether they're cities, towns, townships, whatever they want to call themselves, North Grenville calls themselves a municipality, period. They derive their power from the province. They receive funding from the province. They technically cannot receive funding from the federal government, and that has caused friction, but the province and the federal government went into a memorandum of agreement, and federal money now flows through the province to get down to the lower level government. There was one more thing. So in essence, we can cajole, we can pressure, we can ask the provincial government to do something, but we can't mandate for them to do it. We are the creatures of the province, and that's very important to understand. Okay. So May 1st has come and gone, but that was the start of the nomination period. You could begin submitting your nomination documents. It also is the time period that started for third-party registrations. This particular presentation does not concentrate on third-party registrations. We find that they're not as popular here as what they are in more urban, larger urban centers. So there is a manual that the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing does up really well that has a lot of information for third party.
So just quickly, what a third party is, if somebody is going to campaign for somebody else or for a particular matter, they have to register and be considered as a third party, and they have specific rules to follow. So it's like, well, it is a campaign, but it's by somebody for something other than running for a seat on council.
The other part of nominations here in North Grenville, and as well as the two other municipalities that are here, there is a requirement for the nomination paper, which I believe is Form 1. Form 2 is also required for any municipality that has more than 4,000 electors, and that's signatures of people who are on the voters list who are basically nominating you. And it's 25 signatures that you need by 25 electors, but because we don't have a voters list right now, I would strongly suggest to you to get more than that. Get 30, get 40, just in case, just as a buffer in case.
So yes, we'll talk about that in just a minute. The question was, do names matter when you get your nomination? So we'll speak to that. I think what Yvonne wanted to say is the names you get need to be qualified electors. And we're going to talk about what qualified electors are.
Yeah. Nomination day itself is on August 21st. Up until that period, you can submit your nomination form during regular office hours of the municipality. On August 21st, it is stipulated by law that it's between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. If you are
Don't know why.
If you were in the building at 2 o'clock or near the clerk's office at 2 p.m., you will still be able to register. If there's a lineup of 15 people, as long as you are in that building, they'll have procedures in place so that you will still be able to register. But remember, do it before 2 p.m. Don't do that to your clerk, please. That's not fair. On September 21st, the voters list will be circulated to all candidates, and there's a list of other ones that they will do. On October 25th, you will receive a notification of penalties, what the penalties are for breach of the Municipal Elections Act and what could happen to you. Voting day is on October 26th. You will note that there's a lot of municipalities in Leeds and Grenville that are using electronic voting. And that actually, there's an advanced vote that occurs the Monday before Election Day. It'll open up at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And the advanced vote ends at 9:59 a.m. on Election Day. And then the regular polls open. You'll still be able to vote by online, by telephone, but it's just we separate them out from advanced vote and regular voting day. So voting day, 10 a.m. till 8 p.m. Your term of office, if you're successful, will start on November 15th, but please note there will be training that you will have to do between the election day and November 15th. You may be asked to do your oath of office before November 15th, just in case there's an emergency. There's a massive snowstorm. November 15th comes along and none of your council has done their oath. That's not the position you really want to be in. And then on December 31st, your campaign period ends. Your campaign period begins with the registration of your nomination and ends on December 31st or whichever date your campaign ended on. For example, if I registered today to sit on council, to be a councillor, and then on August 21st, I come in and I withdraw that nomination and I register to become mayor. That's my campaign period for the councillor is between my nomination, when I submitted my nomination and August 21st, and then my campaign for mayor begins August 21st and ends December 31st. So they'd have to file 2 financial statements. So financial statements, December 31st. March 30th is the very last date to file your initial financial statements by, again, the magic 2 p.m. We have no idea why 2 p.m. The province has stated the 2 p.m. It's you.
Sorry. So qualified elector. So it's very important when you go and get your nominations that you have the qualified elector sign your nomination forms. To be a qualified elector, you have to be a resident, an owner, or a tenant, or a spouse of an owner or tenant in the municipality that you're running in. They have to be a Canadian citizen. You have to be 18 years of age or over on voting day. So if you have somebody whose birthday is on voting day, for example, and they're going to be 18 on that day, they can nominate you while they're 17, as long as they're going to be 18 on voting day. And then there's some things about prohibitions, like if you ran in the last election and you did not file your financial statements, you're not qualified to run in this election. So there are some prohibitions related to that. If you have something funny like that with the Elections Act, Municipal Elections Act, just speak to your clerk and they'll be able to help you with that. Next.
Corporation.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna keep going on that. Okay. If you are an employee of a municipality, you must take a leave of absence as soon as you register to as soon as you file your nomination papers. You also need to advise or give notification to your municipal council that you are taking a leave because you are running in the election. So it only applies if you are an employee of the municipality that you're going to run in. So if you live in one municipal, say if you live in Elizabethtown, Kittley, but you work in Brockville, it's okay. You don't need to notify any councils. But if you're going to be running in the council for which you are employed. There are other things like if you're an integrity commissioner, an auditor general, ombudsman, or registrar, you must also take a leave of absence. In the Municipal Act, it does allow for contract positions, so not full-time employees. So if you are a clerk or treasurer who's not an employee and you're contracted by a municipality, you must take a leave of absence. Judges of courts are prohibited from running, senators, and then I mentioned earlier about any other violations under the Municipal Elections Act. And you will notice there are a couple of pieces of legislation where we are very specific and we say municipal, because there is the Elections Act, but that applies to provincial elections. If you're talking about municipality or local elections, it must be the Municipal Elections Act that you look at. There's a distinct difference between the two. With regard to corporations, this is something that every election clerks face this question. I own a business in Brockville, and I believe that I should be able to vote because I pay taxes. If the business is owned and the property is leased under my personal name without a business, then I am a qualified elector. But if you are a business owner, even if you own 100% of the business, but the lease or the property is registered on title as the business name or Sandy MacDonald Inc., you are not an eligible voter. That is a corporation. You have to be a person in order to vote, not a corporation. So just make that quite clear for everybody.
Yeah, and when you're looking for those signatures, you may know a lot of business people, but they may not be qualified. So be very cautious of that.
Yeah. So always ask the question, do you live here? Is probably the safest question to ask. So if you live in the municipality, and back to the question about what names, the names have to be, you have to be a qualified elector for the municipality that you're running in. So if you're running in Elizabethtown Kittley, they have to be qualified electors for Elizabethtown Kittley only. Doesn't matter if they can't be qualified, say, in Brockville. Okay.
Methods of election across Leeds and Grenville. Athens is the only municipality that's using paper only. Brockville, Gann, Prescott, and Rideau Lakes are using internet and telephone only. And then the balance of them are paper and internet telephone voting. And each municipality will have a procedure related to the type of election that they're doing, if it's internet and telephone. And that procedure will be available to the public no later than June 1st. Most municipalities have theirs already, and you can check. They have QR codes out in the hallway, and you can check your individual municipality, see what they have up on their election page.
Also, for those that are doing paper, or for those municipalities that are doing paper, you should consult with your clerk as to when they will be using paper. They don't use paper. The internet voting period is essentially 8 days long, but with paper, it's very specific times. They may only do it in advance, or they may only do it on voting day, but each municipality can be a little bit different. So make sure you check with your clerk if you want to know when paper ballots are going to be available. As we indicated in the other municipalities like Brockville, Gananoque, Prescott, and Reno Lakes, there is no paper balloting at all. It is all done by either internet or telephone voting. And I'll just speak a little bit to that for people that are being concerned. Brockville went cold turkey, I call it, to internet and telephone voting. We didn't transition like some of the municipalities have done to go paper to paper plus internet, strictly to internet. We just cut off paper, went straight to internet. And of course, everybody's quite concerned about how people will adjust to that and being able to vote. Our voter turnout did not change. And just by going internet doesn't mean that the vote, it's never done with the intention of increasing the voter turnout. Brockville's always had a higher than provincial average voter turnout, and that didn't change when we went to solely internet and telephone voting. And we set up electronic polling stations. We use iPads for our voting. And people could come to the help center and they could vote. And the number of seniors or people that had never used a computer that came was great. And we offered assistance and they were happy. A lot of them were seniors. And they say, I can now tell my kids or my grandkids that I voted electronically and I used a computer. So it was never a deterrent. It was never something that I felt as a clerk that it restricted people. It actually increased, well, not increased necessarily, but allowed for people with various types of disabilities who maybe can't get out if the weather's bad or anything like that. But also we typically had about 24 people who were out of the country who could vote. So, you know, the snowbirds typically don't go till November, but some people leave earlier. And we had from Japan, we had from South Africa, we had from a lot, probably half of them were from the States, but all over the world. So it's very interesting to see. And if anything, we got 24 more votes than we would have had if we didn't do internet voting.
From a rural perspective, Elizabethtown, Kitley, over 2 elections, they used a telephone and internet, and the largest increase in participation was actually from seniors. It wasn't from the youth. A lot of the youth still wanted to do the paper for their first time voting, but it was from the seniors. They're embracing this technology.
And especially post-COVID.
Yeah.
Everybody's kind of used to it now.
Yeah. So new for the 2026 election, and I say this every time, but I'm saying it again. Sandy doesn't want me to say this, but I'm very excited that the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation, MPAC, is no longer involved in our voters list. It was not their primary business. Their primary business was assessing properties. And because their act said they had to do it, they begrudgingly did our voters list. And I don't think there's ever been an election that I've ever been involved in that there wasn't complaints about it. But then the blame game got started and it just never ended. So this year, Elections Ontario are responsible for the voters list. It's their business. They know what they're doing. It took a lot of negotiations. The AMCTO was involved in those negotiations, trying to get Elections Ontario to pick up this task for us. And there was some concern because in Ontario, Elections Ontario, when they ran the provincial elections, it's one person per household gets to vote, per household gets to vote. So if I lived in Smith Falls, I got to vote in Smith Falls. But if I own property in Brockville, I didn't get to vote in Brockville. Where the Municipal Elections Act, if you own property in 16 municipalities, you have the right to vote in 16 municipalities. There is one exception, school board, you only get to vote once in your primary home. But that was one of the things Elections Ontario had to work themselves around. I will say that since they have taken it over, there's been a number of by-elections in the past couple of years, and the municipalities I talked to who had by-elections were very, very, very happy with the voters list, which I never heard about MPAC's voters list. I can beat them up. So that when you're out campaigning, this is the website that you really want to put in your head and memorize so that when you're talking to people, ask them if they've checked to see if they're on the voters list. This is a site you can go to, they can go to check to make sure they're there or to do what needs to be done in order to be added to the voters list.
And it's live now.
Yeah. You can do that. They can do that until August 12th. August 12th is the cutoff. And from there on, you'll have to go to your individual municipality or tell the people you're talking to, go see the clerk in the municipality to be added to the voters list.
So before we head on to the next section, do you have any questions or is everybody okay? Okay, we'll carry on. So we're going to talk about municipal structure. And we're going to talk about it more as we go on and when we talk about council staff relation. But it's important to note that council's only employee is the CAO. CAO, city manager, administrator. There's various terms that are all interchangeable, but their only employee is, I'll say city manager because that's what my default is, CAO. So it's the CAO's responsibility to then manage all the other staff members that are in the municipality. That is how the structure works. So the CAO is sort of the middle person between council and the rest of the staff, department heads and staff along the way. So it's very important that when you follow the structure, that council is going to be the one who sets the priorities and sets the direction for a municipality. And they do that typically through a strategic plan. So a strategic plan is typically done at the beginning, typically, not every municipality does it, but most do now. It's set at the beginning of your term of council. It's like a roadmap that staff follow for the next 4 years and beyond. So council typically will focus more, say 80% of their focus will be on the next 4 years with a smaller eye to the future. But without this roadmap, staff have no guidance. We need to know as staff members where council wants to go. So the other part that gets done with this is council should be referring back to their strategic plan when they get into setting the budget. So one should feed the other. So if you want to be I won't say fiscally responsible yet, but we'll talk. But if there's a particular project that council want to see accomplished. So in Brockville, one of the things that we have in our books for some point is a new multi-use recreation facility. Well, so in the next term of council, they want to see that accomplished in those 4 years, then they need to make sure that there are funding allocations to make that happen. And only council can do that. So one should follow hand in hand with the other. There are times when there are CAOs with multi areas of responsibility. For example, in Prescott, it's a CAO treasurer. In Elizabethtown Kitley, it's the
administrative clerk.
So don't know that your CAO can wear multiple hats and have multiple roles and have a lot to do. So it's not typical of, not everybody's the same. Yes, sir. Yep, I'm going to speak to that in just a couple of minutes. They were just asking if we could speak to strong mayor powers, so that is coming up. Yes.
We'll kind of get into that a little later on. The question was whether the province somehow dictates
or influences, I guess is a good word.
Dictates the municipal decisions. And we will, I promise, we will have something in there. And if we don't, you remind us at the end, okay? Thank you. We've done this seven times, and we still can't remember who's doing what. So it's like, it's your turn, my turn. So the head of council duties are listed on the screen. Most of them speak pretty well for themselves, presiding over council meetings. You can get a very strong mayor who can preside over council meetings and influence decisions. They provide leadership to council. As the mayor goes, the council generally does. Represent the municipality at official functions, carry out other duties that are assigned from time to time under other acts. One of those is the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, though that's generally delegated to a staff member. And for everyone but anybody looking to run in the city of Brockville right now, you're a member of the upper tier, especially the head of council is a member. Sometimes it's a deputy, but in this case, I don't think we have any deputies on there. The first one, act as chief executive officer, it was extremely controversial when it was put in until it was clearly defined. When I think of a CEO, chief executive officer, I tend to think in the business corporate world. And in the business corporate world, your CAO is your head guy. It's the CEO. CEO. Oh, see. CEO is the head person who decides the direction of the company, who authorizes what's going on with the company, hires, fires, and so on. That is not a municipal CEO. A municipal CEO is the person who's going to represent the municipality within their own boundaries in the province of Ontario, across Canada, if they're involved in organizations like the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. That's their role. It is not to, and again, we'll get back to the strong mayors. It is not the same as a corporate CEO. So as I said, head of council participates at county council meetings, which means you're going to go to countless council meetings. You may be involved in the planning advisory committee, committee of the whole. You may end off being a member of the joint services committee. The joint services committee consists of members from the United Counties of Leeds and Grenville, the city of Brockville, town of Prescott, town of Gananoque. And they negotiate the cost sharing for very specific services such as paramedics, court services, social housing. Then, of course, you may be involved in the corporate services and finance and any other committees or boards that the county councils wishes to appoint you to. I do know right now county councils meetings are generally, oh, now I'm going to blow it. Well, they end off with 2 or 3 days of meetings at least once a month. So you have to be available for those meetings. All yours.
Okay, so this is where we're going to talk about strong mayor powers. So strong mayor powers were introduced in Ontario by the Premier to accelerate provincial priorities, primarily housing, infrastructure, and transit. So the powers were inferred so that the mayors could appoint key staff, propose budgets, veto bylaws, and pass certain bylaws with 1/3 council support. So talking about them, the budgetary control is now the mayor's responsibility for proposing the municipal budget rather than staff. Honestly, in 99% of the cases, the mayor will be working with staff to do a budget. So the budget has to be presented by the mayor by February 1st. So when you are newly elected to council on middle of November, one of the first tasks, if you're the mayor, is going to be get the budget underway, because you have basically 6-7 weeks because of holidays and Christmas and all of that. So that's an important first step. The mayor can also hire and dismiss the CAO and other key department heads, excluding statutory positions. So the statutory positions are the clerk, the chief building official, or the chief of police. Those positions cannot be hired or fired by the mayor. The mayor can also establish, reorganize, or dissolve municipal departments and create council committees, including the appointment of committee chairs. And the mayor also has the ability to direct staff in writing to undertake research or carry out duties related to their special powers. Again, it's always intended that these special powers were to help meet the provincial priorities, but we know now that they've been in place for just over a year that they're not clearly defined, let's put it that way. So it really is about creating, the province said it's going to be another 1.5 million new houses by 2031. It initially started with just Toronto and Ottawa, and then they added it to another 26 municipalities. And now last May, it was added, and it's a total of 180 something municipalities have strong mayor powers. The question was, and I'm sorry that he's gone, but strong mayor powers, would they be expanding to other municipalities? Right now, they are only for municipalities where they have greater than 5 members of council. So anywhere where it has greater than 5 members of council, they have strong mayor powers. What we're hearing is that they will not be expanding it. So there was a municipality, do you remember which municipality it was? They said, can't remember, but they wanted to change the composition of council and they wanted to reduce the number because then they would be under the threshold of 5 and it was going to be permitted. So they're not, I don't foresee it in the next, it won't, they're going to make the change, it won't be applicable in the next term of council, is my opinion. But you need to check if your municipality has strong mayor powers.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. So we're going to talk more about specific roles about staff and council, but right now it's not up to the mayor. The mayor is in North Grenville in particular. The mayor doesn't have strong mayor powers, so it's really still rests with council as a whole instead of just the mayor. And then there's the division of roles that we'll talk about between council and staff. Yes.
Yeah. Just as a note on the strong mayor powers, you'll have read mayors sitting back and saying, I will not use these powers. And they think that those powers just trickle away somewhere into the wild blue yonder. This is provincial legislation, and any municipality with 6+ members of council, that stays. They may choose not to use them today. They can change their mind a year down the line, or a new mayor can come in and say, oh no, I'm taking full advantage of these powers. So it's important to note, because sometimes people think when the mayor says, I choose not to, that they're gone, but they'll never be gone.
Yeah. And the mayor also has the ability to delegate some of the things. So for example, in Brockville, the mayor has delegated the ability for the organizational structure and the hiring and firing of department heads to the city manager. So he stays out of it, and it's the authority is all delegated to, in this case, myself.
Okay. Is it you or me?
So which municipalities have strong mayor powers? That's where we are. So Brockville, Gananoque, Prescott, Athens, Elizabethtown, Kittley, Leeds and Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes.
Which leaves North Grenville out.
Yeah. Merrickville, Wolford is not in.
Front of Young.
Front of Young is not in. I think that's everybody.
I think 6.
Yeah.
Oh,
Westport.
Edwardsburg Cardinal.
Edwardsburg Cardinal and Westport. Yep. Okay.
Okay, so when I'm talking council members, I am talking all council members, not just, not excluding the head of council. And I do use the mayor in place of head of council every once in a while, but it can have so many different titles. So council members are responsible to represent the public and consider the well-being and interest of the municipality, not necessarily the residents and the public. We'll talk more about that in a bit too. Develop and evaluate policies and programs. Again, that loops back to the strategic plan. They start that process. Determine which services the municipality will provide. Ensure that practices and procedures are placed to implement council's decision. That doesn't mean that they get to write the practices and procedures, but they make sure that it is flowing and the information is going out. Maintain the financial integrity of the municipality. And this is kind of where I'm coming back to your question previously about provincial funding and how it affects the priorities of the municipality. Your municipality may have priority 1, 2, and 3, and it lines up with their asset management plan. They're road-based. One's road, one's a bridge, and one's a sewer and water project. But then the province comes along and says, we have all kinds of money for recreation programs. And if you apply for this recreation program, we're going to give you 66% dollars. Well, there's hardly a municipality in the world that isn't going to say, oh, let's get rid of one of our priorities, and let's grab this recreation funding. So yes, they do manipulate municipal priorities through their funding. Mm-hmm. And as much as that sounds cruel, but that is the truth. They do it. And of course, to carry out duties of council under any other act that you're required to. We do have a base funding, is what I'm going to call it. What's that called now? It used to be
Ontario. It's OMPF, Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, and there's also ISIP.
Oh, ISIP too. Yeah. Yeah.
So there are 2 streams of funding that are specific to municipalities. But for example, Brockville's net budget is $45 million, and those 2 funding streams are less than $2 million. So it's not a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. And special projects do come up. You can get, a municipality can get funding for special projects based on whatever the province or it used to be Winteria. What is it now? The lottery one?
I don't know because we never get it.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Whatever that is. Yeah. 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 You have to be small and poor.
Where are we?
Council demands. Does that mean
me?
Okay, good.
So your demands. I recommend that potential candidates speak to their clerks and find out when your meetings are. Find out the meeting schedule, because if you are on county council or a mayor representing your municipality on county council, their meetings are in the daytime. Brockville, all the meetings are either 4:30 or 5:30 in the evening. There's a couple of committee meetings in Brockville that we do during the day, but you really need to check what the meeting schedule is, because it could vary. It does vary by municipality. And so it really will have an effect on your ability to work, or it may affect your job because a lot of people are still employed full time. So you will be attending a lot of meetings, council committee meetings. You'll also be asked to attend public events. Could be store openings. It could be chamber meetings,
birthday parties,
anniversary parties, a lot of different things like that. You're going to be doing a lot of reading. Everything that comes before council generally has a report that's attached to it that gives you all the information that you need. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, but you will be doing a lot of reading. You will be in communication with your constituents a lot. Could be by social media, could be by email, could be by telephone. It could be drop-ins. So if you work in an environment where people just, we have a member of council who owns a restaurant. There's people in there every day to see them. Another member of council works at a dry cleaners. Every time somebody comes in, they're talking to them. So depending on the type of work you do, know that people will have some expectation that you should be able to be available to them. Agenda packages, which I talked about the reading a little bit, and most of our municipalities in Leeds and Grenville now use technology for their agendas, and you will also have an email issued by the municipality. So you need to be a little bit familiar with technology. In Brockville, we use iPads. I think a lot of the municipalities are using iPads. There are a couple that provide their members of council with a laptop as well. But in Brockville, we provide an iPad for our members of council. I think that's.
Well, can I ask, please?
Yes.
One of the things when you're talking about the phone calls, emails, drop-ins, and so on, as if you're successful in your campaign to run on council, you have to really be aware that when you're approached by a member of the public, to not promise something that may be outside of your authority. A single member of council literally cannot force the municipality to do something. It is council as a whole that makes the decision, and the majority wins, and the majority's decision is what goes forward. There also may be that you're not aware of some legal liability that you may open the municipality up to, which could cause a lot of issues in the future. Okay, sorry, now I'm going. Oh, that's me. So council demands, remember I said that there's things that you need to know. There's documents that you need to know or be aware of if you're interested in council. First of all, we talked about this before, the Municipal Act alone, you don't need to know it all. You have staff that are the experts in it. We have been harped at by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. The AMCTO has provided us with learning opportunities. We have dealt with that Municipal Act for years and years and years. And we also have in our hip pocket, every municipal clerk has it in their hip pocket, a lawyer that if you really don't know, you can always say, hey, in our case, Tony, what do you know? And they'll be able to provide us with the information that we need to know. The Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, please know it, Google it, read it over. It talks about a member's pecuniary interest, financial interest in any decision being made by council. And it doesn't just mean money in your pocket. So you own a lot, the municipality's looking to expand a park, you offer the property to them at a discounted rate, that is still a pecuniary interest. You've got to be really careful, and it's not just you, it could be members of your family as well. The procedure.
Can I just?
Yeah, I knew you had something.
Things like businesses, if you you own a lawn care business or cut lawns, and you bid on a tender to mow lawns, that's a pecuniary interest. When that matter comes to council, you should not be in the discussion. And I think we talk a little bit more about conflict of interest. Yeah.
I had a head of council who had a design business, and they would not do any work. They wouldn't even put a bid in for any work with the municipality because of that conflict. When we're talking about the conflict of interest, there is a procedure for members of council. If you are in conflict or believe that you are in conflict, you must declare it at the meeting at which the item is being discussed, or the next meeting if you're absent. There is a form that you will be asked to fill out, and it will become public, usually posted on the municipality's website. And my recommendation to anyone who has a conflict, don't stay in the council chambers. Get up, rise from your seat, and go out of the council chambers until that is done, because you're not to influence the discussion in any way. And you cannot tell me that sitting at the back of this room making faces when people are talking against your proposal or for your proposal is not going to influence the other members. So get out, and then come back in afterwards. Yes, ma'am. That's tricky. We're talking about conflict of interest and donations to the hospital. If the donation was to operating funds, which you would get paid out of, that would be a conflict in my world. If it was a donation that could only be used for the CT scanner, that you're not making or losing money out of that.
It's in common with
But-
the general
yeah.
electorate.
But if you're ever worried about it, the municipality has an integrity commissioner, they have a lawyer, or you can have your own lawyer and just ask the question, right?
So that, but there is a little bit of a caveat in the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act is if it's a pecuniary interest in common with the general electorate. So that in the best example of that is voting on a budget. It's going to increase everybody's taxes. Therefore, if we declared a conflict, nobody would be voting on it. So you have to remember that caveat under the Conflict of Interest Act.
The other one that's around is municipal councils can vote for a pay increase for themselves. That's allowed under the act. Okay, the next one is the procedural bylaw. The procedural bylaw lays out how your council meetings are going to go. And remember, your council meetings are business meetings. This is when the corporation's getting together to make decisions and directions for the corporation. So be aware of what's included in there and the processes there. Every municipality, way back when, had to pass an accountability and transparency policy. What it stated was that municipalities will, all of its operation will be open to the public. That's why we can't run like a business. So the next couple down, procurement bylaw, we had to have that. That's the openness and transparency so that the ratepayer can see that we're spending money appropriately. Up to a certain level, you can spend the money. The next level is you need 3 quotes, written quotes. The next level is a tender that doesn't go to council, but goes to the department heads, and then it goes up to council. So it's really important to understand that. The code of conduct, it tells you how you are to behave with other members of council, dealing with them with respect and openness. It's not to say that you can't disagree, but when you do it respectfully. You don't say to your neighbor, hey, idiot, why would you think that? That's not appropriate. But it might be appropriate to say, I don't agree with you. It's just a respectful way of dealing with other people. People's feelings don't get hurt, and it just goes downhill from there. We've seen this happen. There should be a council staff relations policy, how council and staff will interact. One of the things that we've said time and again is that staff have no way, will not, will not defend themselves in public if you rip into them. So if a member of council says, Sandy, that is the shittiest report you have ever written in your entire life. How could you be that dumb? Sandy's not going to sit in a council meeting and say, you're the one that's the idiot. She's going to just sit there and stare at them, probably not very nicely, but they stare at them. They will not go on the defensive with a member of council in public. If you have a problem with a member of staff or with a report, again, be respectful and follow the staff council relations policy. You'll also be responsible for various other legislative requirements, such as the Employment Standards Act, the Health and Safety.
Workplace Health and Safety.
Thank you, Act, the Water.
Safe Drinking Water Act.
Thank you. All of these things you're going to have to be aware of, because the bottom line is if something bad happens, it's going to be council that's going to be at fault.
But You need to be aware, but you don't need to read it. That's our job. That's why you pay staff the way that you do. We learn all about these things. We will actually do training with you on specific things, like the Safe Drinking Water Act in particular is required that members of council have received training. But it's our job to help you understand the policies. It's your job to make the policies, and then we help you understand if you're not sure. But with regard to legislation, provincial legislation specifically, it's our job. You can if you want to, but the Municipal Act is this thick. And every piece of legislation is dry, boring, and it refers all over the place. We deal with hundreds of pieces of legislation. It's not just a handful. It's hundreds of pieces of legislation, depending on what's going on. So
The last point on here is the asset management plan. The asset management, this is my little soapbox that I'm jumping on. Every municipality before a certain date never accounted for its assets, never accounted for its roadways, its sewer lines, its water lines, recreation buildings, municipal buildings, skating rinks, baseball fields, all of that. Never accounted it for it. But the Public Services Accounting Board said, no, 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 no. Municipalities, now you have to figure out what all of your assets are and put it into this management plan, which means that, for example, the city of Brockville has spent years figuring out what all of their assets are, figuring out what the value of all those assets are, when the replacement may happen, and how they're going to allocate funds over 10, 15, 20, 25, 50 years in order to maintain those assets. Sandy's going to give you the totals for the city of Brockville, but I will tell you that there's not a municipality in Ontario that is meeting those obligations at this point. They're working towards it, but it's very, very difficult. So when I'm talking about that and your first week in council having to start dealing with a budget, this is why we turn around and always say to councils, 0% increase in the tax rate is not acceptable if you're going to try to meet your obligations under your asset management plan.
So just for interest's sake, the city of Brockville has over $800 million in assets. And that's what we know of as of today. We have infrastructure that's 200 years old in the city of Brockville, and some of it we may not have all the records pertaining to it. We think it's pretty good. But your asset management plan is a living, breathing document. So every day that we go in and we do a dig up, it's now going to be changing the asset management plan because we're replacing pipes or adding in some valves or pumps or whatever it may be. Every day it could change. So when you look at our asset management plan, and it is over the life of the assets, our asset management plan indicates that in order to be financially
Solvable.
thank you, that we should be spending $19 million a year on our assets. We are currently spending less than $10 million a year. And part of the problem is the municipalities across Canada are responsible for 60% of the infrastructure across the country. Municipalities only receive 9 cents of every tax dollar paid by Canadians. So try and fund 60% of the infrastructure across Canada on 9 cents of tax dollar. So that 9 cents includes what the tax levy that you have for your community. It includes the OMPF and the ISIP grants that I mentioned earlier. It may include some other funding that's delved down by the province or the feds, but it's only 9 cents on every dollar that we received. So it's a gap that's continuing every year, and it's not anything that we could fix. So when Yvonne says that 0% increases in taxes are not reasonable, that's part of the reason why it's like that. Sorry, I was just going somewhere else and I forgot where I was going.
Well, when you think about that for a city that's growing, and North Grenville is growing as well.
Oh, huge.
But there's other municipalities that are not growing at that rate,
Yeah.
that funding that asset management plan is going to be a huge challenge.
Yeah. So just a little bit about that, comparing North Grenville to Brockville. So part of how you get dollars is the assessment, the assessed value of properties, right? Everybody has their property is worth X number of dollars. In the city of Brockville, we're very tiny. We're landlocked. We don't have a lot of room for expansion and continued growth to add more houses, to add more business. There's very limited in what we can do. Whereas North Grenville has grown exponentially, and their assessment base is growing as well, which helps to fund the tax rate, right? More assessment, more taxes, tax income. So you really need to know your municipality or understand that not all municipalities are the same, but we're all working with the same constraints.
So duties of council. Dr. Richard Tyndall is an expert in municipal government. He's basically my God when we talk about municipal government. I worked with him for a little while. He was a professor in Queen's University. He also taught the municipal administration program in Kingston for very, very, very many years, has written numerous books on municipal government. So I stole from him. He says that council has three very distinct roles: representative, policy making, and managerial. So we'll go quickly through those. For the representative in nature, Richard Tyndall. You're elected by your community, hopefully, though about 19% of municipal council members across Ontario are acclaimed, which means nobody ran against them. But if you look at your council and you look at the makeup of your municipality, is it really representative? If you have 50-50 male, female in the population, does your council reflect that? If you have newly minted Canadians, immigrants who have become Canadian citizens, are they being represented on your council? Young families are underrepresented, in my opinion, on municipal councils, mainly because of a time constraint. They're working, they're raising kids, they're running from arenas to ball fields, to soccer fields, to dance, to judo, whatever. So there's a juggling to be had there. The majority of our members on council are in their 40s to 50s. They generally are small businessmen that are on council or have been in the past. And in my experience, that's exactly right. They're men who are working in the community and they can walk away from their jobs to go and do something anytime, and it worked for them. There's something else. Yes, let's talk about that representative 1 second, Sandy. One of the things that was brought up in one of these meetings was that they didn't understand why council didn't consistently go out to the public for their opinion on every action that council was doing. And technically council does, because remember I said we have to be open and transparent. So the agendas are produced on the whatever day, Thursday, Friday, for a meeting on Monday or Tuesday. They're published, they're available to the public to be able to take a look at, and if they have an issue, then they can do something about it. But you're not making decisions based on necessarily everything the public says. You're making a lot of decisions on what's best for the municipality for the future. And if you had to go out every time to public meetings, public open houses, for every decision, there's some you have to, but for every decision, you would be paralyzed. You would never get to be making those decisions that you need to do in a timely manner.
So you have to remember, when you're elected to represent the citizens. So they feel that your platform or your beliefs or your way of conducting business mimics or mirrors what they want and what they're looking for. So yes, public consultation is good, but don't let it paralyze business.
So in the policymaking role, it's a broad role that council has. Again, we're talking about long-term planning, your strategic plan, and your budget. They all link all together to make sure that we're moving forward. Council concentrates on what needs to be done, not how it gets done. And this is extremely important. Council decides that we need to charge $100 per dog tag. Well, don't let us do that. Don't tell us how we have to do that, because we might have really good ideas on how to do it, but we also know what our staffing limits are and our abilities. So if council decides, well, yes, we're going to sell these and we're going to hire 5 new people, well, you didn't put that in the budget. So all of a sudden you're telling us to hire 5 new people, where we're going to get the money for it. So if you let us figure out how to do it, maybe the best way of doing it is selling it through outlets, local grocery stores, gas stations in the area. Maybe we do a huge promotion to get it done. All of these things, let us do what needs to be done. You need to steer the boat, we'll row it. We'll do the hard work to get your goals met.
So council holds the responsibility for the management of the municipality. And as we've talked about previously, it's changed somewhat under strong mayor powers. But it is still council's responsibility to ensure that statutory positions are filled. So the clerk, the treasurer, the chief building official, and the fire chief are statutory positions that need to be filled. But it doesn't mean that council should be involved in the hiring per se. So that's back to the discussion about the city manager or the CAO being delegated and being responsible for the staff. So it doesn't mean that council is involved in those positions. Council can be involved in hiring of the CAO. It is, again, under strong mayor powers, it is their responsibility, but it doesn't stop the mayor from putting together a committee to hire a CAO. Remind you that council's only employee is the CAO. CAO is responsible for all the staffing coordination between council and staff. So CAO is the middleman and makes sure that the policies are implemented that council has passed, and including the budget. The budget really is a policy in itself. But council does hold a fiduciary responsibility, and we've talked about it through budgets. We have to make sure that the care and control of the municipality's money is for the best long-term plan. So there's your asset management plan. And then I go into about the asset management plan. And we did say that 0% tax increases are not responsible at this point in time. So just for an example, so everybody understands, if you want a 0% increase, you could certainly make that happen. But in order to do that, especially in this day and age where inflation and everything else is high, you're going to have to cut service. In Brockville, that's something that we face every time. Council sets the level of service. So if you want, we've got a service level of 0 to a service level of 5. If you want to provide the Cadillac, you need to provide the resources. So not only the equipment, but the staffing resources in order to make that service happen at a level 5. If you only want to operate at a level 3, then you fund it accordingly. But every service that is provided costs money. It's not just about the equipment, it is about the people too. And more what's happening is the staff are being asked to do more with less staff. And you will hear that from every municipality across the country. And I think we're going to talk about staffing a little bit in a minute. Yes. Because it's very hard to get staffing these days.
Just as one note on it, it's council's responsibility under the fiduciary care to put the corporation first. Just because the taxpayers want 0% increase, and I know we're harping on this, but just because that's what they want, if you're not caring for the corporation to make sure that it is financially secure in now and in the future, you're not doing your proper care and control of the municipality. I do know of one municipality that spent millions of dollars right after they amalgamated. I mean, millions of dollars on roadways. And they're still, long after, I think it was in 2000, they amalgamated, and they're still up to their nose in debt with very few reserves. They're not in the greatest financial position. You want a nice balance, but you don't want to have so much debt and almost zero reserves. Oh, which also, which on a tangent, municipalities pass a budget and municipal staff are trained. It's pounded into their head. Make sure you get your councils to allocate money into reserves, working fund reserves, capital reserves. It is so similar to a house budget, your own house budget, because you also put money into savings for unexpected things. Or, oh, we need to replace the roof next year, so let's put money into savings to do so. That is reasonable financial control over your situation. And municipalities are the same way. If you put funds into reserves, you're maintaining the health of the municipality if something bad happens.
But know that reserves are less and less these days because of the infrastructure gap that
Demand.
we're facing.
Yeah. Miriam. Service roles.
It's me.
Oh,
So we're just going to talk about role of staff, service, management and supervisory, public relations and policy advisory. So under the service role, staff administers the policies and the programs. Policies and programs are set by council. You determine the service levels, you determine the policies, so how much, the biggest policy being your budget, and then you put everything in place. It should not be members of council getting into the weeds on, like Yvonne said earlier, dog tags. How are you going to sell dog tags? That's not the role of council. You need to be talking about the bigger picture things and let staff who know and have the experience figure out the details on how to do it. We also have all kinds of other obligations rather than just administering the policies and programs. We have other things that need to be done under the election. So this year there's an election. There's no policy and programs or policy specifically around elections other than it's the Municipal Elections Act, and 90% of the Municipal Elections Act, or maybe more, falls to the clerk to do. It's they're the ringmaster for the whole election. So don't think that just because the clerk is assigned these duties that they don't have other things to do. There's things like the Line Fences Act. So I don't know which department in small municipalities because I've never had to deal with it.
The clerk has to do the Line Fences Act.
All right, I'll get that. But we have 200 other pieces of legislation, or over 200 pieces of legislation that we deal with on a regular basis. And it's all of those things are set within the policies, in the programs within council's
Purview.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As mentioned before, the CAO is the lone employee of the council. Big or small, the management of staff is very challenging. And ensuring that the needs are set out, we have to follow the Employment Standards Act, we follow the Human Rights Code, we have all kinds of employment legislation. Regardless if you're a small municipality or large, it applies to all of us. We have working schedules that need to be done, human resource activity. And this is where I want to mention that I've totally just lost it. Sorry. Oh, I know. It's becoming harder and harder, just like across, whenever you go out and you see municipalities, there's people are looking to hire people for every type of job. And it's becoming harder and harder to get people to get to work, to find people to work. But municipalities are not like a business. So it's not the same as going to work in a private corporation. municipal staff really face much more scrutiny and have a different set of rules. Even if you're in finance, it is not a typical finance position that you would get and understand coming out of school as a CPA or any of those things. Municipalities have different ways of doing things because of the legislation. So it's becoming much harder to recruit staff. We have been looking for staff for various positions. We've gone out several times and not being able to get any qualified staff. We are ending up that we're poaching staff from other municipalities is basically what happens. So you have to remember that staff resources are becoming harder to find for municipalities. So have an eye to what the ability of your municipality is because of the levels of staffing. I think Brockville right now has 6 vacant positions just in the administration part because we can't get people. And one in particular is a director position. And we advertised last year and we still haven't been able to find anybody. So it's across the board. Every municipality that I speak to, they're all facing the same challenges.
One of the challenges in working in municipality is that we have to work with politicians, and I don't mean that meanly.
No.
But it's a different atmosphere as compared to a corporation, because you have to, as a municipal staff, you have to learn, develop political acuity, understand that there are political decisions that are made, understand that the public is going to influence council's decisions. It's not done in a vacuum, and that's one very difficult thing for some municipal staff to understand. You ready? Sorry.
I'm sorry where we are.
Well, right where you're supposed to be, I think.
Yeah, so public relations role. Typically, staff are your front line. They'll come into your city hall or your township hall. They'll stop and speak to employees on the street from Public Works. So they act as ambassadors for the municipalities. And I said at the beginning, we're proud of what we do. We do it because we want to give back to the community. And 90% of your staff are like that. They're there because they will put up with the things that a lot of other people won't put up with. Yvonne mentioned earlier about council or a member of staff will not fight back at a member of council or disagree with a member of council because it's not our role. Your role as a council member is to make those decisions, and we may not be happy. It's not even that we're not happy. If we make a recommendation to council, council doesn't go with our recommendations. You know what? We're fine with that. It's your decision to make, but a lot of employees, or not a lot, some employees can't work in that environment. They can't accept that what they recommended wasn't accepted. And that's part of what Yvonne was mentioning. It's a different place.
That's me.
Okay.
That's me because I like this part. That's the only reason. So Paula, you can see if you look back, the duties and roles of council and the duties and roles of staff are very, very similar. We're representative. We represent the public. We look after policies and so on. Well, this is where you may start to understand how we work together successfully. So initiation of policy, it generally comes from staff. It's because we hear the comments from the public. We are working with policies that have been passed and we're trying to make them work, and they're not. So we'll come back to council and say, this isn't working. We've got to adjust this. There's new legislation that comes down and council must be aware of it. We're the first line that will bring these forward. But council, as the representative of the public, needs to initiate policy as well. That's done through the strategic plan, but it also can be done during your tenure by bringing it to council, whether it's a notice of motion or whatever, so that we can get it onto the table and we can start processing it. So it's that part is shared. Research and recommendation, that's a staff action. There's got to be good communication between council and staff regarding what is intended, but staff will run away and they will go and do their professional thing find out information for council, talk to their colleagues, talk to the province, talk to the lawyer, talk to somebody in Nova Scotia that's done it before, whatever. And they will come back with a report for council with usually with recommendations. I say usually because if it's a legislative change, if there's no options available. This is what the legislation says, this is what we got to do. But generally, they'll come back with some recommendations based on their professional abilities. And so let's, for example, say council has 3 options in a report. So that gets us to the next step of the adoption, where it's only council's job to do. Council can only adopt whatever happens. So you do 3. Council doesn't like number 1 at all. Okay. Council somewhat likes number 2, but there has to be some changes in it. Or they can opt to throw out every single solitary option there and say, this is what we want to do. Or staff, you missed the mark. I think, try this area. This is what we want more information on. This is where the political acuity really comes in, is that council will make a political decision. They may take one of those recommendations or not, but based on what they believe the public want, they may say, no, 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 no. We want you to do X, and this is what the policy is going to be. And as Sandy said, staff will say, okay, and they will go away and they will implement whatever it is that council wants done. Now, council, maybe you should be looking for some benchmarks so that staff can report back and say how the policy is going. Short-term rentals is one of the ones I've recently been involved in. And what they did is they tried the program out for a year, and then they reported back to council whether it was a success or not, whether some of the complaints that they had been receiving were addressed through the policy, and then council could make either adjustments to the policy, remove the policy entirely, or continue on. And then the review includes both council and staff. It's really important that you both get together to review certain policies on a regular basis. Not all policies, but certain policies. So now this is where, over the past 10, 15 years, I've noticed across Canada, it's not just here, but across Canada, staff-council relations have somewhat deteriorated with incivility on both sides, where council is very derogatory towards staff, and staff are not very nice about council. I'm not saying one's worse than the other. I also find it in the public too. The public aren't very nice to either council or staff. And for some reason now it's okay to come up to somebody in the municipal office and tell them off for nothing and be swearing and cursing. I have never seen as many signs up in any offices, let alone municipal offices, that say, we will not tolerate disrespect. That wasn't there 10 years, 15 years ago. This is a new thing. So we kind of wanted to lay out what would be important for a good staff-council relationship. And this was yours. And the idea was to give you some tools or give you some ideas that will help make the municipality look good. That's what we want to do. We want the municipality to look good. And if the municipality looks good, if there's not a lot of infighting and between council members and council and staff, then the public themselves think, oh, that's a pretty well-managed municipality. It must be doing okay. I've seen municipalities where the council just, and people think
confidence and trust.
Yeah.
From the public when they don't see, when there's no infighting.
Yeah. And the staff are going behind the scenes doing what they need to do to make sure the municipality is functioning. Auditor's report comes out and it's glowing. Who cares? The damage has already been done. The public thinks the municipality is not functioning correctly. And it goes worse from there.
So what council should expect?
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What council should expect from staff. So well-planned agendas. Remember, you're running a business. It's a weird business. It's not a regular private enterprise. So you should expect well-planned agendas. You don't want to go into a meeting and waste a couple of hours talking about nothing. You want to have the information that you need, including, this is where Yvonne and I always disagree, brief but thorough reports. My reports, I tend to like my staff, especially at the beginning of a term of council, to put more background into a report, because a new member of council may not understand the background and the history behind something. So I make sure that that's included in there. Or if a member of the public has no idea about a particular matter, they should be able to read a report and understand everything that led to the decision being made.
My side is 2, maybe 3 pages. Like, don't go past that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's just different ways of doing things. We need to make sure there's policy alternatives and address what the implications of each alternative could be. So if you do this, what's going to happen? If you do this, what's going to happen? The good, the bad, and the ugly. Make sure that there's adequate information and analysis to make your decision. So the biggest takeaway from this that I give to my members of council is we send out agendas 2 business days before the meeting. That means that you have 2 business days to read the staff reports that are on the agenda. If you have a question or you feel that there is something missing in the report in order to help you make the decision, go back to the author of the report or whichever communication process is set out by your municipality to find out the information that you want. First of all, it's going to give the staff person a heads up that you need the additional information so they could be prepared at the meeting to provide the answer. And also it tells the staff person, I missed something, and they'll learn from that and be able to provide the information the next time around. And again, it's working together. It's having the good relationship so that you could get the information that you need in order to make the proper decision. And then, of course, follow up on actions. So that's something that happens across every municipality. Just make sure that things don't hang out for months and years and things get done. So council should also understand.
No, should expect.
Should expect, okay.
Sorry.
No, this is staff, from the staff side. Is that where I am?
No, we flipped.
Oh, yeah, okay. So we've mentioned it a couple of times, but as staff, we know that there's going to be decisions that are going to be made that are political. There's always some perception, well, in Brockville, there's some perception that administration is running the whole municipality and council have no say in things. It's not the way that it is. Council is actually making the decision, but if it appears that way, that administration is running the show, it's because administration is providing the correct information and the correct recommendations to council. Council are the ones that have to implement all the policies, all the actions of council. So if it's not a bad, in my opinion, it's not a bad thing if it's perceived that way, because we know then that staff and council are aligned and we understand what council wants. So it makes it easy for them to look at the reports that are prepared by staff and say, yes, that's exactly what we wanted, as opposed to amending it 6 times or rejecting it or whatever it may be. But if you change it, it doesn't matter. We know we provided you the information that you need, and whatever decision comes of it, we will be happy to go away and implement it. So again, about respecting the position taken by council, and I mentioned about recognizing the organizational structure and its reporting requirements and the communication. So every municipality is a little bit different. Our members of council can go directly to department heads to get information. Some smaller municipalities go through the CAO to get the information from staff reports. So you just need to speak to your clerk or your CAO and find out the method that's used there. Then, are you doing staff?
Yeah, you did council.
Okay.
Might as well. We flipped this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Staff should expect from council that council is familiar with the organizational structure. This is really important. You can't have a member of council going down to one of the public works guys who's out snow plowing and saying, hey, do you mind plowing out this driveway? The member of staff knows you're a member of council. It's really hard for staff to say no to council. And so this member may do that. The staff member may do that, may do the snow plowing. Well, that just opens up a whole barrel of monkeys because then the next guy down the road, well, you did it for him, why don't you do it for me? Respect the organizational structure. If you want somebody's driveway plowed out, then talk to a snowplow operator that's privately operated. Our municipal guys shouldn't be doing that. But it's an example of how the structure needs to be followed. It goes the other way too. You don't want a member of staff, an administrative assistant in this building, comes to you and complains that their brilliance isn't being recognized by their supervisor and that they could do so much better. I bet you they could become the director of planning in like 6 months. And having a member of council go to the rest of council and champion this person. And all of a sudden they become the director of planning because of their influence over that member of council. And they're terrible because council had no idea that their performance reviews were terrible and they were on a management plan to improve or get out. So it's very important that that organizational structure is going to be watched. It just does so much damage. Do your homework before you come to the meetings. It used to be in the old days, 42 years ago, that people would come to the council meeting and rip open the agenda envelope while we were sitting there. They'd never read it. They've never considered any of the information that was in there. And it shows when you don't prepare. So please do your homework before the meeting. Oops, sorry. Be supportive of staff. Don't criticize in public. We won't criticize you. Don't criticize staff in public because it gives the perception that your staff are not doing their job. And we have to work as a team.
So if you have an issue with a member of staff, go to your CAO or the appropriate person to deal with that. Don't air your dirty laundry, basically.
Appreciate the demands of the job. This is really important. Though it might look like, oh, your clerk's waiting for the next meeting, and that's all they're doing.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything else. So they do the agenda, they wait, they put it out on Friday or Thursday, and then the meeting's on Monday, so they must be sitting there all Friday doing nothing and all Monday doing nothing. And then they wait for the meeting, and then they have a couple of days of follow-up afterwards. No, they have so many other things that they're doing, clerk in particular. If you pass bylaws, they have to make sure those bylaws are put into a registry. They're accessible on file fold, in electronic format. They're updating they're making sure your website is updated from the council meeting and for the next one. They are looking after records management. Generally, the clerk is tasked with that job. And when we're talking records, we're talking thousands, hundreds of thousands of documents in the municipality, some that have been here for 150 years, that they have to manage and make sure they're preserved and well filed, whether it's electronically or not, so that they can be accessed at any time. So it's not that they're sitting here waiting for the next council meeting. They have obligations. Treasurers alone seem to have to do reports for the province every single solitary month, and that's not including doing payroll and accounts payable, accounts receivable, tax payments, bank statements, bank reconciliations, all of the other things that they're doing. There's so much that goes into every single job in a municipality. Give clear directions, I've said it before, on what is to be done, but leave how it is to be done to the staff. Respect the professional recommendations of staff and consultants. Said it over and over. Be respectful. You don't have to agree, but be respectful in your disagreement. Recognition of professional organizations, a little bugaboo for me. My municipality supported me through all of there's two municipalities, through my education to become a municipal professional. Through my committee participation and zone participation, when I became president, the year that I was president, I was gone, well, almost more than I was there at certain parts of the year, because I was doing 9 zone meetings in the fall and 9 zone meetings in the spring. And then I was doing board meetings. And then I was going to conferences across Canada, the United States, and Japan. My council was there for me. They supported it. They never questioned it. And what it did for the municipality is, oh, Elizabethtown Kitley, oh yeah, we have a president from there. That municipality supports their staff in their professional endeavors, and they're more attractive to you then. They want to come and work for you because you have that reputation. So it's good for both the staff member and it is good for the municipality. The amount they learn through their professional organizations is wild. And we've come to the end. Are there? Ooh,
Go ahead.
go.
So are there any questions? We'll be happy to take them. Okay, well, thank you for coming. We appreciate seeing you and your interest in serving on municipal councils. If you have any specific questions about how your municipality functions, speak to your clerk. The other thing that I recommend, or a couple of other things I recommend, is if you want to know about the involvement or what the time consideration should be, speak to a sitting member of council or a past member of council, and they could give you a different perspective than what we can give you because we sit on the other side of the fence. So don't hesitate. Most often, they're very accommodating and willing to speak to you. The other thing is there's the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, AMO. AMO has some information or training sessions that are free to prospective members of council. So if you go Google Association of Municipalities of Ontario, their website is www.amo.on.ca. They have some training, so that it's helpful and it's free. And then they also have training post-election for a cost, but your clerks will be able to tell you that. So again, if there's any questions, we'll be happy to take them. If not, thank you for coming tonight.
You have a question?
Yep. Okay.
I know one municipality, Black River Matheson, the council locked staff out. So, that's the type of relationship they had. And they had to change all of staff and pretty well council in order to be able to work together again. The changes, there's disrespect.
Instability is really, it's a society problem in general, but it's becoming harder for both sides, the political side and the staff side, to manage because it's so in your face and in the public.
And
So, go ahead.
For a member of staff, our only option is to go to talk to the head of the council and say, this member was out of line. Well, I guess we could go to the integrity commissioner as well now, but this member was out of line and they need to be brought back into line. And Mr. and Mrs. Mayor, will you speak with them? That used to be the way. I know the integrity commissioner, because you've got the code of conduct, the staff can go and do that, but it puts them in a precarious position. I've seen that happen where a member of council was basically accused of sexism, and they did go to the integrity commissioner. The integrity commissioner came back and said, oh yeah, inappropriate. And council said, yep, we need to punish that member of council. Next council meeting, oh, we've changed our mind. So it's now going to the Human Rights Council to be looked at. And that wouldn't have been heard, well, maybe it would have been heard of 40 years ago. Yeah, probably, because the Reeve that hired me said, oh, she's just going to get pregnant and leave us, which was inappropriate to say today, even more than back then.
But it's important, as long as you have, in Brockville in particular, I've been very lucky through, as my last 5 years as city manager, to have a very supportive council of staff, and we have a really good relationship, and I've developed a really good team of staff members, and so those relationships have worked really well. But it will totally vary by municipality. And I think what you were alluding to is some of the responsibilities between what's delegated to staff and what some councils get involved in. So I know that like some municipalities still approve the accounts payable list or approve payments and things like that. It totally depends on the municipality and where they feel it's important, where the members of council feel it's important that they spend their time. Really what we're trying to instill in people as we develop these programs and others, and the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing also, they're sort of our guardians, if you will. They also instill the same type of philosophy, is council shouldn't be in the weeds. Council should be setting the policies and then let staff do the work. And some municipalities are just slower on the uptake, and others are like Brockville. It's been like that for many years, just because we're larger and it's just too cumbersome to be involved in the weeds. So I think, does that pretty much answer what you're looking for? Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, we were talking, somebody just mentioned about mayors or another member of council being into the weeds and doing line by line budget reviews, or saying you buy this kind of truck and that kind of truck. But those are the things that are set by policy. Like a procurement policy prohibits us from buying locally, because first of all, we have to work under the free trade agreements, and now we have new legislation, Buy Ontario, Buy Canada legislation, that we have to work in. And so we can't just go to Joe down the road who sells pickup trucks and buy pickup trucks there. Council passed a policy that says this is how you do procurement. And so it's keeping the members of council out of the weeds. And it's always by setting the policy. And if you have a good administrative team, they should be helping council establish those policies to keep you out of the weeds.
The prime example of that is I was working for a municipality and they needed some cement done, and a member of council said, oh, go to the local cement guy. He'll give you a really good deal. It was too expensive, or it was too high an estimate that we had, not the supplier. And I said, no, we can't do that because we have to go through our procurement bylaw. And that councillor went ahead and got a price from the individual. I had to put it out on tender. His price was higher than I got on the tender. So buying from Joe next door is not necessarily the cheapest, but it's hard to get to that point where council understands that.
Yeah.
Also, I said it before, the head of council sets the tone for the other council members. If our head of council is respectful of staff, is aware of their role as the head of council, then the rest of council tends to follow that. There's that perceived difference between a council and head of council.
Anything else? Are they specific to the municipality or general? Because you and I can always meet offline if they're specific to Brockville. Okay. Oh, sure.
Won't touch fundraising if you're talking fundraising for a campaign. Again, AMO, the AMO website, they do a lot of how to campaign. They did one really good how to campaign video. You should be watching that.
But are you talking fundraising for a municipality for a project or something like that? Okay, yeah, campaign,
We stay out.
we stay out of it. It's, the clerks need to remain neutral, so we really stay away from that. So that's where it would be really helpful for you to talk to another sitting member of council or past member of council, or look on the AMO website. Yeah.
Every candidate that files their paper will be given a document stating three things: maximum amount that they can raise for campaigning or spend for campaigning, the maximum amount that they or their significant other can contribute to it, and how much you can spend for the after party. Win or lose, you get to
But
do the party.
the financial statements are a public record, so you can always ask your clerk for copies of them if they're no longer on their websites.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say that in my experience, most candidates do not use, in the rural areas at any rate, do not use the maximum amount.
Oh, gosh,
They
no.
get signs. In the rural area, the most popular thing is to go door to door.
In Brockville, we've had some candidates who have spent $0 or only a couple $100, and sometimes more than a couple $1,000. So it really just depends. But yeah, ask your clerk to see the previous elections financial statements, and they are a public record. What else you got for us? What type of polling information? Okay.
You already have your voters list by September 1st or shortly thereafter. You got a voters list. Then if they have an advanced vote, you will get a list of people who voted in the advanced vote.
In Brockville, because we're doing internet and telephone voting, it's all going to be done electronically. So you'll have sort of a database access point that you'll be able to go in and see. We don't have polls in Brockville, it's at large, sorry. So you'll be able to go in and see who's voted and who hasn't. Of course, you can't see who they voted for. You can only know if they voted or not. In other municipalities that still use a ward system, it is broken down. So if you're running in a particular ward, you would only see the eligible voters for that ward. But Brockville, all the positions are elected at large, so across the municipality. Anything else? We're here. Use us.
Nope.
Sorry,
Promising
can't touch that
0% in tax increase.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to take a bit.
But you have to remember, you're a part of a team that's making a decision, right? So you really, as a member of council, you have no authority on your own. And also, you have to understand the roles that municipalities play versus what's the responsibility of the provincial government and the federal government. So, for example, one thing that comes up often in Brockville is homelessness. Brockville has no control over homelessness. Homelessness is actually a provincially funded program, but the province downloads monies to the county, and it's provided in that way. So Brockville has no say unless Brockville Council chooses to add money to the budget to deal with homelessness. So know the jurisdictions that you're working in and the responsibilities. Another one that came up recently was, it'll come to me in a minute, that somebody else said, oh, I'm going to deal with this on their platform statement, and it was like, no, you're not going to deal with that by being a municipal councillor. So just understand the roles that municipal councils play versus the whole hierarchy.
Again, federal, provincial, municipal.
Yeah. And in municipal, it's lower tier versus upper tier, as also single tier. So Brockville's a single tier, so pretty much its own little fiefdom, except for provincial offenses, ambulance, and community services, which are provided through a joint services agreement with the county. So the counties provide those services, the city just pays for part of it.
Interesting that you say that, because then they'd have to provide those services
Yeah,
from scratch,
yeah,
right? Yeah, yeah.
yes. But in some cases, maybe not, because those services that I just mentioned, ambulance, provincial offenses, and community services, were all services that were provided by the province, but downloaded to municipalities, and they downloaded them to upper tier municipalities. So I'm not even sure if the upper tier municipalities could get out of providing those services and having it provided locally. So it would take some work and it'd be a significant cost, most likely. Mm-hmm. Free political advertising.
There is to a degree, because the newspapers and sometimes the radios will interview every candidate and put it in the paper. So that's free advertising. Or even on the radio, they'll call each candidate in. But they do all of they're pretty darn good at doing all of the candidates. And that's part of your free advertisement, for sure.
But I think it could also be somewhat related to third-party advertisers.
Which is not really necessarily free, but.
Yeah, it's very minimal cost, so.
Oh, in larger municipalities, like unions and corporations can't contribute to individual candidates. And sometimes unions will get together and become a third party so they can fight against a candidate who, can I use your hospital? Okay, so if, for example, there was a candidate that was totally and absolutely against any funding of hospitals, whether it's donations or anything, they could convince, the union could decide, well, we're going to fight against that candidate, make sure they do not get in, and the union then would register as a third party and they would campaign. That's free campaigning, but it's against the candidate.
Yeah.
Go talk to a union. Go talk to a corporation.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that, just for an example, if you were a sign maker and you decided to make all your campaign signs, you'd have to put a dollar value on that.
Yeah.
And then if you save those signs and just put re-elect that person, you'd have to inventory that and charge back to your campaign the cost of those signs. And there's a process, and it's all in the candidate's guide to be able to do that. So you have to be very cautious.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So what you're asking is your time providing a service an expense? Yes, it is, if that helps.
There's rules regarding fundraisers, and you need to take a look at that candidate's guide, and it will do more
Yeah.
to further that. And I would think AMO probably does a little bit more into it. There is certain things in a fundraiser that's a little wonky on financial, but yeah. Mhm, mhm.
Um,
There's nothing free. Like they say in the guide, if you receive a donation at a fundraiser that's $10 or under, you don't have to do a receipt, but you still have to account for it in your finances, right?
correct.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, the other little bit about funding of campaign contributions that donors have to be aware of is they can only donate, I can't even remember, I want to say it's $500 in total across the whole campaign. So they can't give $500 here and $500 there, if that's the number. But there's something like that. What, 5,000? Okay.
Yeah, but
Um,
that's across Ontario.
Yeah,
So it is possible that they would do it.
yeah.
Well, go to the cities, like the big urban areas, Ottawa, Toronto, Markham. They get huge contributions.
But part of your financial report or part of the financial reporting is the list of donors. So if you get the previous financial statements, you'll have the list of previous donors to other campaigns. Okay. All right. Anything else? Anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you
Thank you
again for
very
coming.
much.
If you've got questions specific for your municipality, just remember to contact your clerk. And don't forget, on the table just outside the door, there's a QR code for each municipality that'll take you to the website with all the election information for your for that municipality. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.